So there's some interesting things going on the Candace Owens front, okay? Candace Owens is saying that this Bill Ackman, there was a big meeting where Bill Ackman was putting a bunch of pressure on Charlie Kirk. They had an argument, they were yelling at him, there was some sort of Zoom call, and there was all this pressure on Charlie Kirk to make sure that he loves Israel, thinks Israel could do no wrong. So Bill Ackman is this ginormous Zionist, and he's got this long little diatribe here, and he says nothing about, the Zoom call. He kind of talks and dance around it about how, he was just asking this question and that question, but he doesn't say anything about how there was any kind of argument, there was any sort of disagreement. He didn't put any pressure on Charlie Kirk whatsoever. He didn't put any pressure on Charlie Kirk whatsoever. And so, therefore, Candace Owens is just slandering poor Bill Ackman. That's all Candace Owens is doing, is just slandering poor Bill Ackman. And so, there's you can watch the Candace Owens show. I'm just going to, you can piece it all together. There was Max Blumenthal. He had put something out there too about how this conversation did take place. It was in August, in early August, right? So just 1 month ago, they had this, big conversation, and Charlie Kirk had a bunch of pressure to continue to love Israel. Now, Charlie Kirk loved Israel, wanted to defend it, thinks it's great, but he had some questions, some, doubts, a little bit of skepticism. There was people that was even talking, saying that if he did, continued his skepticism, that he could be killed by Israel. Here's MJ Truth Ultra, Candace Owens. Charlie Kirk was starting to talk about topics he was not supposed to talk about. Epstein playing a part. Epstein cast for a role. Maxwell is the key player. Maxwell's father is spy Mossad. Epstein worked for Mossad. Epstein gathered blackmail on U.S. politicians and world leaders. Members of Congress are actively being blackmailed. So, this is interesting because Charlie Kirk said a bunch of terrible things. He was, spewing hatred day in and day out. But there was something like right before he got killed, he did start to question the narrative on Israel. He did start to question it. And so, that's a window of opportunity for resurrecting his image. That's an opportunity to resurrect his image and say that, he wasn't just trying to browbeat everybody to get everybody to be on his side, but that he did question things and that there was room for him to evolve on his views. So, that's a fascinating thing. I guess we could take a look at Max Blumenthal, and then we'll just call it a day, right? So Max Blumenthal is going to, talk about the issue that was going down with Bill Ackman, and let's see, where is that at? There's 2 lynchings that happened in Mississippi. Nobody is talking about that, which is crazy. But here we go. This is
pressure, the mounting pressure that Charlie was under from pro-Israel forces, from Netanyahu's cutouts in the United States. I gathered more details. The piece, it hit like a sledgehammer. It really caused a lot of, I think it spoke for a lot of people, particularly within the conservative movement, which is changing among the youth on the question of Israel. And more people started coming out, and more people started talking, and people were talking to me. And these were people who had knowledge of a tumultuous, stormy meeting held in the Hamptons during the first week of August, convened, according to multiple sources, with knowledge of this meeting, intimate knowledge of this meeting, by the billionaire ultra-Zionist financier Bill Ackman, who's close to Netanyahu and his kind of network in the United States. Charlie Kirk was summoned along with an array of young, sort of vapid, very avaricious conservative influencers who seem to be sort of in Israel's back pocket to set a very pro-Israel tone for this meeting. And Charlie Kirk was, according to one source, hammered by Ackman and others for allowing Israel critics, very prominent conservative voices like Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, or the anti-Zionist Jewish comedian Dave Smith, to appear at his events. And actually, Charlie Kirk was planning to host many of these same figures again in December, and he had just added to his TPUSA major, I think it's called America Fest in December, the premier critic of Israel in Congress. I didn't say Republican critic, I just said premier critic, because that's what she is now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, which really reflected his shifting views. And Ackman, according to multiple sources, had this meeting to basically bully Charlie Kirk into submission. Charlie Kirk walked away, according to one person, feeling like there was an attempt to blackmail him. He refused any offers of funding and also refused the offer to travel to Israel and meet with Netanyahu, which Netanyahu disclosed in the wake, the immediate wake of Netanyahu's death. He talked about this letter. But he didn't say whether Charlie Kirk refused or accepted. I've learned since that he refused.
So that's pretty fascinating, isn't it? I think so.